Rome, Italy's capital, is a sprawling cosmopolitan city with nearly 3,000 years of globally influential art, architecture, and culture on display. Ancient ruins such as the Forum and the Colosseum evoke the power of the former Roman Empire. Vatican City, headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church, has St. Peter's Basilica and the Vatican Museums, which house masterpieces such as Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel. Sure, we love the gelatos, pasta, pizza, wine, and the people, but I don't believe anyone should go through their life without visiting the undisputed art capital of the world. Visiting Rome is like reading thousands of books on ancient history all at once. As the famous quote says, all roads lead to Rome, and this ancient city is so thrilling and beautiful that will leave your head spinning for decades. Welcome to Rome.
This is really heaven because it looks exactly like it has to be. Marcello, you've got one of my favorite first courses in Rome. They are tonnarelli alla carbonara. So a tonnarello is a sort of spaghetto but with a square section. And what you see is fried pork chicken, pecorino cheese, and black pepper. If you want some more, just add it.
Yeah.
And the egg sauce. Just mix it quickly.
That
and
looks
I've got
so good.
the spaghetti.
Am I safe to assume there's no vegetables here?
Yes, because the owner, the father, that was his name, and now this is run by the sons, and it's a very typical place in Rome. As you reach, as soon as you get in on the other side, on the right hand side, you see the word osteria.
Yeah.
That can be found in many local places of Rome. The oste, without the H nowadays, is the guy who serves you with wine when you get in a place. Long time ago. I'm going to try.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. You like it? Thank you.
Like
Yeah,
it?
it's perfect.
Sì, grazie. This is some Chianti. And try to imagine at the beginning of the 1900s, especially on Sundays, people were not able to afford the expenses of regular lunch in a restaurant. So they went especially to the areas out of Rome where we make wine. Grazie mille. They had to order some wine from the host, who is the guy who makes the wine and serves you the wine, and he could come in with some food.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And that's, even if this is nowadays a restaurant that have a good selection of wines, they make pizza, they make pasta.
This place is known for
Pasta and pizza.
Pasta and pizzas, for everything.
Yes. It's a typical traditional sweet. More or less right next to the Church of St. Agnes in Agony. Try to imagine, go back with your time machine to the year 86 after the birth of Christ, and that's the way it used to look like. So if you take a look down below here, it's a bit dirty, but Rome is like this. It's like a gigantic lasagna with its layers and layers of history. There you find, if you go down, the original remains of the foundation of this ancient stadium.
One, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Your finger inside this finger, not that. This finger here. You turn, you cut. Zucchine, patate, cetrioli, kiwi, ravanelle, amela, tutto. Per fare l'insalata, decorazioni. anche per te la sera, poi collana. Quando finisci devi tornare. Se vuoi pulisci anche l'orelio, le metti qui dentro, gira, torna. You want try? Very easy, you take here, come on other side.
We gotta bring this guy and see.
We're now in Campo dei Fiori, so the field of the flowers. And here we go, where we can see veggies and fruits, of course souvenirs. And we have restaurants around here and flowers only on the right. People, heretics, were burnt alive in the center of this square, so no church, no witness. There is a statue of this Dominican friar. He simply theorized that the sun was the center of the universe, not the earth. Think of the heliocentric theories. It was the beginning of the year 1601. So he was considered heretic and therefore he had to be judged by the Vatican Tribunal and he was burnt alive in here.
Oh my goodness. Look at the smell of this place.
Yes, exactly. And just pork meat, made fresh or seasoned, salami,
This is incredible.
sausages. Was the place where we had one of the first permanent marble theaters of Rome, 2nd century BC, and he was killed here, somewhere nearby. It's really hard telling you exactly the spot. In a few minutes also you will see again the shops. There are lots of workshops as well in here, so this is also a nice area for tourists to rent an apartment. There are lots of nice hotels, but in a few minutes you're literally in the downtown, in the city center of Rome. So this is the ancient Roman Forum. So the real center of the city of Rome. It was the downtown, so the commercial, religious, political center
This
of
is
Rome.
everything happened here.
Everything happened here. So when the first Roman emperors, including Augustus, came here triumphantly, they moved during the military parades along. Do you see the long road that links?
Yeah.
You see the Colosseum in the distance.
Right.
More or less it links the valley where the Colosseum was built through these ruins till towards the arch of Septimius Severus, the only emperor who was able to invade the ancient Persia or Iran. I always like telling my guests, Alexander the Great would have been really proud of the Romans at the beginning of the year.
It doesn't matter how many times you've been in this place.
No, it's never.
It's
ever
always
boring.
as magical as it
It's
gets.
a magical place. Heading to this incredible monument, the Colosseum, and I would suggest you, even in the summer, to always come, enter the monument right 1 hour or so before they close the entrance.
That's
Just
a
to
great
really
tip, yeah.
fully experience the monument out of the crowds. Maybe even in the high season.
Yeah.
Or it's always you get the very best. So if you can stop in there, you take good pictures. And
So
we
just before 3:30, and then
see
a lot
in
of people
winter time, of course.
a lot of people also get tickets usually on the Roman Forum, right?
Yes.
And then they use the same tickets for the
The
Colosseum,
same
right?
ticket for the Colosseum. That's very important. And also if you're here for like 3 days, there are lots of convenient ways to explore the city center.
How do people from Rome feel about all the tourists here and all the attractions here? Are they do they benefit from there? Do they enjoy it?
Romans, I know many Romans who were born and raised in Rome and they have never ever entered the Colosseum a single time in their life.
Really?
Absolutely.
People from Rome,
Positive.
they've never been to the Colosseum?
Never been to the Colosseum. Yes.
Myself is going to be my second time. Where are we right now?
Right in the center of Rome, Piazza Venezia, Venice Square in English, and it has been named after the big palace, Palazzo Venezia, the brown structure you see just in front of us, where you see the flags of Italy and Europe. From there, Mussolini often came out for his public speeches. From there, he even declared war to England and France. But this is an earlier monument. I mean, this one has to be dated back to the 1400s. This one, 1924, it was finally opened. And it was meant to be dedicated to the first king of Italy, Victor Emmanuel II. Italy was still a kingdom back in those days. We have to wait for a referendum, 1946, June the 2nd. The Italians were asked after the war, do you want to keep the monarchy or do you want the republic? That's why nowadays Italy is a democratic republic. And in 1948 we had our first ever signed constitution. And the kings were exiled and banned for quite a while. The Savoy family in English. It's free of charge. You can climb it, you can go there every day. Well, we have always soldiers or members of the army from the navy. They look after these eternal fires that are meant to honor the unknown soldier of the World War I.
This is by far one of my favorite monuments in Rome. It is so
stunning.
beautiful.
It is.
I mean, you can spend a whole afternoon here. It's incredible. And you can tell this goes all the way to like
Via del Corso on the other side.
Corso, and then you have like there's so many structures right in between here.
Yes, that's the main longest avenue of the city center, and 1 mile exactly, 1.5 kilometers. Now it's hidden by this Christmas tree. And if you want to go shopping, take a stroll even after work or in the evening, it's really nice. Till 8 p.m.
All roads lead to Rome.
Yes,
right?
exactly. We have finally entered one of the new...
only one.
Yes. The Colosseum.
Can you officially say you visited Rome if you don't come to the Colosseum?
Yes, maybe. Maybe I can say that. Maybe.
I would say no.
But well, if you come to Rome and if you don't enter the Colosseum, it's not the same.
Something wrong with you?
No, there's not something. I don't want to say that, but some people at times, they have just 2-3 hours to see the entire city of Rome. There are lots of, because different kinds of tourists and visitors.
Yeah.
But once you get in the Colosseum, then you understand you have to, even 2 minutes, you have to walk inside this monument that represents the entire city of Rome. It's millenary history, because this monument was first opened on the year 80 after the birth of Christ. So it's over 1,900 years old, and it still stands.
The biggest question I've always had when I enter here the first time is like, I was expecting to be all nice and flat, right? Like the Colosseum we watch in the movies.
But it's not.
But it is not, yeah.
Of course it's not, because of several reasons. You have to think of this slow process of disrepair. It was destroyed by several earthquakes, especially one that did destroy, starting from the far right towards the far left-hand side, 1348. And then this monument was heavily vandalized and looted. I have some pictures with me. I'd like to really show you the way the monument looks like today and the way it used to look like many, many years ago. So from a distance, we came by feet, and it was really a nice walk from Piazza Venezia. It's really less than 10 minutes by feet if you don't go to the Forum.
Right.
So this is again the wall we can see once you are inside, looking up to the far right. That has been restored during the 1800s. So 3 floors plus the 4th one, and this is the way we think it might have been back in those days.
If you're ever writing a travel book, that book will never be done until you come to Rome.
It's endless,
So
exactly.
You couldn't call yourself a traveler or even a visitor if you don't come to this place. It's insanely beautiful. It's one of the jewels of the world.
Roma caput mundi, Rome, the head of the world. Well, maybe we are a bit egocentric, but we like thinking that it wasn't. It's still like that.
If you build something like this,
we
I'm
can
okay
say
with
that. Yes.
Rome is a dream come true. Outspoken, busy, artistic, touristy, and ancient, it is one of those cities that will leave your travel mark that you'll never forget. Every time I land in Rome, it feels like I'm stepping into history and walking into the world's biggest museum. No city has ever made me feel this way. The art capital of the world has enough activities for days. Come rested, prepared to walk, learn, eat, drink, and indulge yourself in one of the most beautiful pieces of human architecture and history. Like the famous Francesco Petrarca said, a fool is one who admires other cities without visiting Rome.